Welcome to State and Fig, located in historic La Arcada Plaza in downtown Santa Barbara.
Our menu focuses on products that are raised in the state of California, inspired by the flavors of the Riviera.
And we are proud to be sponsoring this program.
Hello, I'm Twyla Kim. I've been an artist and hairstylist in Santa Barbara for 20 years. I personalize color, design, and precision haircuts for each individual at Sequel Salon in Montecito. I'm happy to be sponsoring Get Conscious Now.
I'm attorney Gregory Lowe. I will prepare your trust, bankruptcy, divorce, conservatorship, probate, evictions. All of this I can do at an affordable price and with caring. Thank you very much.
When I was growing up as a kid, I used to go around with him and watch him.
My mother and I both worked at Lowry Field.
To keep on doing this together.
Hello, welcome to Get Conscious Now, the television show that inspires, uplifts, and reminds us the importance of knowing who we are as spirit beings in human form, spiritual beings having a human experience. I'm Patricia Diorio, welcome, and I'm here today with my co-host Stu Zimmerman, who is just as passionate about this conversation as I am. In fact, I'd like to acknowledge the entire crew of Get Conscious Now for being so committed to our mission, which is not only to uplift, inspire, and awaken people to become conscious, but almost more importantly, it's about creating a catalyst for transforming the media to be a positive vehicle for change on the planet. And we know that we all need that today. I'd also like to take a moment to dedicate this show to a very special person, Patty DeDominic. Patty and I started Get Conscious Now about 2 years ago as a radio show on Women's Talk Radio. And we did several episodes and had a great time. And then we decided that we would take a break and see where Spirit would guide us. And we began a year ago, just a year ago this August, with this concept of doing a television show. So we started our first show last November. And Patty has been an amazing catalyst in launching the show and bringing us to where we are right now. Due to many pressing issues in her life and to a promotion that she's just received as COO of Maui Mastermind, she is the consultant for that organization as well as the COO. She's not going to be with us anymore, so I'd like to express my gratitude and appreciation to her for all she did to bring us to where we are today. And now I'd like to turn it over to my wonderful co-host, Stu Zimmerman, who will welcome you to our show.
Okay, happy to. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And yeah, you know, we just created a field here of consciousness so that Get Conscious Now is not just for us individually, but there's something collective going on. So first of all, I'd like to invite you into the field that we just opened up to right before the program started, even as it is ever present, to join us just simply in a deep breath right now to help open your mind, open your heart, and relax your body to a possibility of a greater truth and a greater loving presence that we have the capacity for. So maybe on a count of three. I know you know how to do it. So 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Gosh, this feels good. And Patty DeDominic, I also want to thank you so much for everything you have done that has led up to this moment and really put this program kind of on the tee for us to take to the next level here. So thank you. And even if you're not with us physically, you are very much a part of the field here, as all of you are watching. So thank you so much for tuning in. And by the way, if you've missed any of our prior programs where we've talked about consciousness in education, consciousness in the media, consciousness in corporations, I know I'm missing one, but we've had another program. What
Economics.
Yeah. My ex-wife will tell me about the economics one. I got to look at that one again. And come to YouTube, and just search for Get Conscious Now. We have our own channel. So you get to see any or all of them, including this program, if you happen to miss any of it. And I know you really don't want to. So check us out on YouTube. And now let me bring the ball back to our dearest, beloved Patricia here to introduce our guest.
Thank you, Stu. Thank you.
Yeah.
So this is our 5th episode of Get Conscious Now, and it's been a very exciting journey up until now. We have had remarkable and brilliant guests, and today is absolutely no exception. Today our topic is conscious physiology, and our guest is Julia Loggins, who is a renowned health practitioner and healer, and she is the author of a very courageous book called Dare to Detoxify. And she's with us today to talk about the connection between consciousness and the physical body, and how cleansing and detoxification really help us to maintain, to achieve radiant health and to maintain radiant health in our lives. So Julia, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you so
It's
much.
wonderful
Thank you
to
both
have
for
you.
having me.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
really
It's
excited to be
great.
here and very honored.
Yes, it's wonderful to have you here.
And also, again, thank you so much for being here. And let's start just simply by defining our terms a little bit.
Good.
So when we're
Let's do
talking
that.
about consciousness, and consciousness and the body, and consciousness and detoxification,
Yes.
what does that mean to you? So maybe you could tell our audience a little bit about that.
Well, to me, consciousness is awareness and feeling, the ability to really feel and to be able to respond to what we're feeling. And detoxification is about the cleansing and purification of our bodies and also our emotional bodies and our minds of anything that does not serve us. That's how I define detoxification. In my work dealing with the physical body, it's all connected. You know, mind, body, and spirit. There is no separation. That's what I've learned in my 35 years and my long history in healing, working with so many others in facilitating their healing work and my own healing journey.
Which brings me to this next question. I remember when we did our interview last that you shared quite a bit about your own healing journey as a young person and what really brought you to do this amazing work today. And so I was wondering if you might share a part of your personal story with us that really helps people to understand why you are so renowned in your field.
Thank you. I'd love to. You know, my healing journey began when I was just a few minutes old, when the doctor told my mom that I probably was not going to survive. I came into the world in a precarious state, and I had malfunctioning organs, and also I was born in 1955, but as I moved into the 60s, it was the dawn of the pharmaceutical age. And so as I had one organ after another break down, I went through one experimental drug program after another. So that is one of the reasons that I kept encountering more and more illness. And also discovered that I had something called environmental illness, which was really new for anyone to label in the 60s, being allergic to the 20th century, to the toxicity in our atmosphere.
Right.
You know, at the time, I was one of the few kids with asthma inhalers on the bus, and I spent a chunk of time each year in the hospital. And it was an early time for me to develop an experience of a relationship with spirit, as happens to kids that are seriously ill.
And how old were you then?
When I was, you know, it started very young for me to be dealing with allergies, asthma, rheumatoid arthritis, migraines, and, you know, visits to the hospital and dealing with anaphylactic shock, things that nowadays, unfortunately, are not so uncommon. And in those days were more uncommon. But saving my own life, I've always said, is my best credential. And
That's good.
And it allowed me to know that it's possible, that healing is possible, and to be able to hold that space for the people that I see and to believe it because I've walked through that fire.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow, so it sounds like you had quite the childhood coming up. So how did you get involved now, specifically in detoxification? And one of your primary modes is something called Colonics.
That's right.
So why don't you share a little bit about that?
Yes, well, colonics and colon cleansing was one of the primary modalities that I learned and that I was part of experimenting with when I was in my own healing process, getting the drugs and toxins out of my system so that my body could do what bodies do, which is heal. Our bodies, just like our minds and our perfect spirits, want to be whole and healthy. And so what I learned was if I could get the toxins out, my body could start to rebuild, regenerate, and heal. And that, you know, in just receiving them for myself was something that is how I started. I actually really fought against moving into the healing world as a profession. I remember telling my dear friends and my first husband that if I could ever get well, I didn't ever want to be around another sick person again. And he said, but why do you think the universe gave you every illness that you have? And it wasn't really until I was living at Hippocrates Health Institute in the 80s and healing myself and working with Dr. Ann and Dr. Brian Clements and Anna Marie that I recognized in having conversations with so many of the guests who had very, very serious and often terminal illnesses that I'd had so many of the same things. And the ease of our conversation allowed me to get in touch with the fact that that's what I was put on earth to do, is to facilitate their healing along with my own.
And I'm sure that you created such a space of understanding and compassion for them because you knew what they were going through.
And sometimes toughness, because sometimes it takes that as well to say to someone, you know, this isn't going to be easy. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. This is what it's going to take to walk through, but you can do it.
So certainly we can understand the detoxification for people that have illnesses, and like you've just shared with us. But why is detoxification important for people that are ostensibly healthy and, you know, wouldn't normally think of going to a colon hydrotherapist or maybe doing an extensive cleanse because they feel good? But why is detoxification important for everyone?
Oh, it's such a great question. Such a great question, because in this day and age, with the environment being what it is and the stress that we all deal with being what it is, detoxification is just as important as taking a shower or exercise, which we know. And you know, the understanding that our bodies were not meant, they can't understand how to eliminate what was not on the earth at the time that the cavemen were here. Our bodies are still in that state. So all the chemicals, the things that we breathe and eat, our bodies don't understand how to assimilate it or eliminate it. That's one of the great myths, that we eliminate what we can't use. And unfortunately, that's not the case. So just the way we understand that we wash our hands to get rid of germs, which at one time nobody even understood had anything to do with health and well-being. We're learning so much about how cleansing and purification is just going to be the norm for absolute health, vitality, and longevity.
Okay, so you're like the eliminator,
yeah,
in a way. So I'm not sure if everybody watching the program is familiar specifically with colonics, because it typically puts one in a compromised position, shall we say, physically speaking. So why don't you share exactly what colonics is and what that process does in terms of detoxifying and helping one to eliminate some of the older energies still residing in the body?
Oh, I'd love to do that. And I just want to acknowledge Patricia for inviting me, and you for being willing to have this conversation. You know, one of the things we talked about when we got together last week was that we are confronting a deep conditioning, and we're confronting a huge taboo in talking about colon therapy and our colons in that part of our body. And any time that we confront a deep conditioning and let go of it, that leads to freedom, to our ability to be free in every area. So I feel like one of the greatest gifts of colonics is just confronting the conditioning that everyone has, that this is a part of our bodies that we're disengaged with, we're disassociated with and disconnected to. Right. And that alone causes, you know, disease. Colon cancer is the second leading death, is the second leading death of for people who die of cancer, just right behind lung cancer in this country. And it's on, you know, those numbers just tell us what it's about to not be confronting integrating our colons and colon health into the rest of our life. So I'm happy to tell you a little bit about getting a colonic. It's a really easy, simple, natural procedure. It's actually been done for thousands of years. It's part of a yoga practice. The Essenes did it. It's, you know, Hippocrates acknowledged cleansing the colon as part of health. And the colon, which is the last 6 feet of the intestine,
6 feet?
The last 6 feet, yeah. Wow. The last 6 feet of the intestine, and it can hold, believe it or not, anywhere from 5 to 30 pounds of waste. Our colons. Yeah.
You're trying to say we're all full of crap here. Is that where we're going with this?
That is where we're going.
Okay, let's call it out then.
Yeah, that's where we're going. And our colons do an amazing job of trying to keep us alive by holding on to what they can't eliminate or assimilate, because we weren't made to let go of some of the kinds of toxins that are in the earth today, in our food, in our water. So what happens is that a colonic is the administration of a small amount of water into the colon. A person comes on my massage table, and they're draped, and it's very comfortable and very simple, and there's a small amount of water that's administered into their colon, and through a tube that they insert themselves into their rectum. And once that's inserted, there's no pain or discomfort. Really, the feeling is unfamiliarity for the very first time, because most people have never had this experience. So just to come in to my office, to say, you know, I want to be here, I want to let go of whatever has now been in my body for my whole life that's in the way. I want to let go of that. Just for a person to get through the door, to do that, and to lay on my table and surrender to that is a huge let go. It's a huge let go. Yeah.
I know. I've actually had a colonic, a couple in my life. And the first time I had it, I was actually really surprised and shocked that it could be a two-way street, you know, because I'm used to something only going one direction, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And to have that sensation, as well as to, what really amazed me was seeing all this kind of liquid, and some of the liquid was actually very clear as it starts coming out, and then out of nowhere, something goes from clear to solid, and then clear again. Yeah. It made me kind of wonder what the heck is, how long I've been holding on to that? Yeah. You know? Well, what was that?
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I grossed anybody out here, you know.
This might be too much information.
No, I appreciate that. No, that's what we're doing here, and that's what's so great. Yeah. And the amazing thing is, people, you know, think that maybe in one colonic everything will come out, but it actually takes a few. And when we really know that we're getting somewhere is when we start seeing sludge just constantly for 20 minutes straight. That is when we really know the body is releasing. And the interesting thing about the colon, it's just the gateway to cleansing in the entire body. That's why colon cleansing is so important, because the other organs actually cannot clear unless the colon is clean. It's just how our body takes care of itself. So when people do liver flushes or they try to deal with other parts of their body, unless their colon is clean, then what happens is when they do those flushes, the body just reabsorbs that material because there's a block that they need to release. So the first place to do cleansing begins with the colon. Health and disease begin in the colon.
And you know, we live in California and here's Santa Barbara, so this conversation is much more prevalent here because people are very health conscious and they're about cleansing and detoxifying their bodies. But still, there are people that that turn their nose up, so to speak, at the possibility.
Nice metaphor.
At the possibility of doing that work themselves. So this is important information to get out to everyone, everywhere in the world, because we all really need to do this to have healthy bodies so that we can enjoy being energy beings in a physical body and have a strong, healthy physical body. Right. So I've had only good experiences with my colon hydrotherapy work, and you are masterful at what you do, darling. So any of you who might be concerned about getting a colonic, I highly suggest that you consider it. Yeah. You consider it. It's important.
In fact, I'll tell you what. I'm going to make a pledge, right? I wasn't expecting to do this. As being in the field here, I'm going to make the pledge that I am going to have a colonic with you.
Wonderful.
And then I'm going to share the results, not video, not video. It's going to be a verbal report. I'm not going to bring any proof of it. You have to take my word for all of it. That I want to be able to share firsthand that experience with our audience here, you know, and tell it like it is.
Oh, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd love to have that experience. You know, I think the most important thing for people to know about colon hydrotherapy is, you know, finding a colon therapist that you feel really comfortable and safe with, because that's the whole key to release, is feeling safe and calm and knowing that a lot besides our waste will come through, you know, on the table. We're in that state of deep relaxation and surrender, and we get in touch with emotions that we've withheld. As we're in that place and we just start letting go, that's the incredible cathartic experience of colon hydrotherapy and cleansing in itself.
You know, I was going to ask you, from the emotional, you talked about the environmental, in terms of the body not knowing actually how to process and release some of the chemicals and things that we've introduced into our society.
Right.
From the emotional side, where people literally hold on to things, and so many of us can live a life of tension and stress, where we are holding on to things energetically and emotionally. Does that play a role into how much the colon is physically, and as well as the other organs, are holding on to?
A huge role, a huge role. In fact, as much as our environment is contributing to our toxicity, I believe that our emotions are contributing the same or more. So one of the things about getting a colonic is it allows people to get in touch with a part of their body that they're holding on emotions, they're holding anger, grief, they get in touch with something that they need to change in their life that they didn't even realize it. And what happens when we tense up? It's right here in our solar plexus, and this is our place of power.
That's our place
so
of power.
when we're disconnected here, or we're numb and we're shut down, or we're in pain, you know, it's hard to be conscious when you're not feeling good. And so just to allow for that to release and for people to feel really good. I love my job because at the end of a colonic, people feel wonderful. They feel clear. They feel light. I mean, that's consciousness.
Yes.
That's consciousness.
That's what I felt when I had my experience with it. And it really felt like my body was in a better position to literally conduct and fire away at the synaptic nervous level with you know, a higher vibration, a higher frequency. They just felt, you know, just so much more delightful.
Well, you're explaining exactly the physiological process. I couldn't do it any better. Thank you.
Well, I think this speaks to the fact that our mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual bodies are all connected. You can't separate them out.
Right.
So I've had many experiences where I've spoken about events in my life that were troubling me or whatever, where it would expedite the release so that it was so much more powerful. So I can see why the work is so very important.
Yeah. It's oftentimes when I'm working with someone and it doesn't, you know, not a lot seems to be moving, and we'll just start having, I call it colonversation. We'll have a colonversation, and they'll just allow themselves to drop in and just start talking, and they'll hit a subject that they didn't realize they had a block in, and all of a sudden that's when we'll see everything flow. And they will leave with much more than just the waste out of their body. They'll just leave with a connection to their heart, to their spirit, and to a sense of their body being whole. And you know, when we are disconnected from any one part of our body, that's just going to cause disease and discomfort.
You know, this also is this whole conversation is a tremendous metaphor for what's going on planetarily.
Absolutely.
Really.
Yeah.
When you look at the planet as a whole and humanity as a whole, we're all interconnected in this web of life. There is no separation. So And this is a wonderful way to understand, when we look at what's going on in the world and the violence and the wars and all of that's happening, that there is no separation, that this connection is indicative of when we're not healthy as a humanity, where we're not healthy planetarily, and where we need to understand what needs to be cleansed. So speaking of cleansing, in your book, and I like the title of it, Dare to Detoxify. It kind of speaks to this whole idea of addressing the taboo, right?
Right, exactly.
But you also talk a lot about cleansing diets. So let's move into that area. Yeah. Talk to us about the diet that you've come up with that really help people to, once they've cleansed their body through a series of colonics, if they need that, how can they really maintain that clean body through diet?
That's a great question. I really believe that there is no one diet for everyone. I believe there's many roads lead to Rome, and that each person has a diet that they will discover once they're cleansed that really works well for them. I have clients that do fabulous on raw food. I have clients that feel healthy as vegetarians. I have other clients that don't feel well unless there's some animal protein in their diet. So to me, I feel like it's a very individual thing, and I encourage every person to just tune in and to trust that as they open up to the cleansing and purification process, they will come up with the diet that works for them, especially if they're willing to reach out and get some help and feedback, and get rid of some of the foods that really don't work for most people. Sugar, processed foods, fast foods, anything, white flour. So in my book, I have a 21-day detox diet, and it's just simply about eating whole, as organic as much as possible, fresh foods as much as possible, green juices, so that we can give the body a break from the incredible work that digestion is.
Recently I was at a retreat where we were offered up green drinks every day. And I noticed that my body really started to like it. I could start to feel a little lighter and a little more vibrant. So now, about 4 or 5 days a week, I've been juicing kale, ginger, lemon, and apples, so I can drink the thing, because it's the apples that make it sweet enough to take it in. And I notice that I seem to have a little more energy. I could feel, I'm usually a pretty happy guy, thank you very much, and noticing that with the juices, it's actually taking my body, it feels like my body is more able to conduct at a little higher frequency, because we're talking about this interconnectivity between our physical, emotional, spiritual. It's just all energy here.
Well, you're taking live food into your body.
Yes.
Right? And when you juice properly, what you're doing is you're taking in all those wonderful enzymes that are really helping you to digest whatever else you're eating. So I'm a big fan of juicing.
Yeah. Keyword, enzymes.
Enzymes.
That is such a key word and so important for people to understand. Yeah, living food, raw food, and juices, because they're so easy to digest, are full of enzymes. And cooked food doesn't have any enzymes. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't ever eat anything that's cooked. But if we do, what really benefits people is to try taking some food enzymes. That's a supplement that can be an enormous help to people. You can purchase it at a health food store, and it really duplicates the enzymes that are in our digestive process already, but that we take out when we're eating cooked food. And it takes an enormous amount of energy for our body. That's why you felt so great, and also alkaline. You were alkalizing your body, and that's really important in the acid baths that our bodies live in.
Because
why is that important? I mean, I've heard a lot about the acidity versus the alkalinity.
So much of the food we eat is acidic.
Right.
Yeah.
Go on. So why does that shut down our body?
Oh, good. That's a great question. So what acid does to our body, and we need some of it. It actually powers some of our internal processes. But what happens is when we get out of balance, our bodies want to be alkaline so badly. And how do they do that? Through enzyme-rich food, through electrolytes. We all know we hear that word, right? Electrolytes. What our bodies will do is that they need a certain amount of electrolytes to function, and they will cannibalize that from inside our bodies and our bones and our muscles if we don't have enough. That's where osteoporosis comes from. That's where depression can come from, because it has an emotional factor as well. When our bodies are really acid, it can affect our mind, it can affect our emotions, and it absolutely affects our physical body. So that's why drinking those juices, which is a pure enzyme rich and alkaline supplement, you know, it's completely natural, that empowers our body to release the toxins inside it and just give us that pure energy where you just feel like you're, you know, you're floating, because your bodies didn't use any energy to metabolize that and shoot that into your bloodstream.
So do you have any testimonials that you can share with us today? People that you've worked with that have amazing stories that really underscore what you've been sharing?
Oh, I've had some incredible clients over over 3 decades that I've been working. I was thinking about one client, Liliana, this morning, because when I was at my office, I saw some of her paintings there. She had been a very well-known painter, and she had had a environmental injury. It wasn't really diagnosed for many years. Actually, what had happened was she had a nervous breakdown, and she was in a mental hospital for many years. She finally found her way out, and she was sent to me by a medical doctor who said, you know, this woman is struggling physically. She barely leaves her bed. And what I believe happened is that she had some horrendous toxic exposure many years ago, because she's suffering, her liver is in such bad shape. And she was barely walking or talking when she got to my office. And this had been a really high functioning, amazing painter, because I saw some of her work. She was almost suicidal, incredibly depressed and barely functioning. I really just prayed when she came in and laid on my table that I would be able to do something to relieve her. And I saw her once a week for a year. And over that time, through getting Colonics, and there wasn't really that much else that she was doing, she moved from a person that was barely functioning and barely talking and never saying anything positive to an absolutely buoyant, exquisite, happy, and peaceful person that didn't even resemble the person that had walked in my door. And she's back painting again. And really all that I really did was hold that space for her, that someone would believe and trust that she could be well again, that she could find her path and find her heart. And we just slowly allowed the toxicity to leave her body.
And that's probably why it was so effective, because it was a gradual thing that you were doing, that you weren't doing anything drastic that would traumatize the body in any way.
She wasn't really, it took her a long time to be able to add other healing modalities into her life. So it was just having that conversation. And, you know, I asked for a lot of guidance while I was with her. And to see that transformation was really a validation of the body's and mind's incredible willingness and desire to be whole, you know, and what can happen when we're there for each other.
Can you I was going to say, can you give us an example of one of those conversations you've had where people are starting to come into, as they have having a physical release, they start to have not only simply an emotional release, but actually an awareness that of either a prior injury or trauma or something that they've been holding on to, or self-image.
Right. Well, you know, the first thing I'll do is ask if I have permission to go into a certain area. Sometimes, how are you is enough. You know, it's once a person is on my table, they've walked over so many of their own fears just to be there, that they are already, as you probably were when you were getting your colonic, in a more surrendered state than their normal walking around place. But it can be, you know, from how do you like the job you're doing? What's happening in your relationship? Are you happy? Are you really happy? And you know, this is a safe space. It's confidential. No one is ever going to know what our conversation is going to be. And for people to just start to explore, and I'll say, look, we don't have to make any changes. let's just take things slow and just allow yourself to talk out, like to just think out loud, stream of consciousness. Try things on. See what ignites you. See where the release is. Let's just follow that.
Yeah. Julia, I'd love to acknowledge you for your spiritual awareness. I mean, to do the work that you're doing today and to have that level of spiritual consciousness that you have is such an addition and an asset to the work that you're doing. And I consider anyone that works with you to be very fortunate to be working with such a conscious healer and conscious therapist as you are. So.
Thank
you
very, I love my work.
Much.
It's
it's
incredible. I love my work, and you know, to be able to go into the shadow with people, and that's really what colon therapy allows. We're really
literally and figuratively.
Right, you're going where the sun don't shine.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
So to be able to be in that place is, you know, I'm so grateful for people to trust me and allow me to be there for them in that way. That it's always a powerful journey.
You know what I'd like to ask you, and I think I know the answer to this question, but I want to ask because I'd like you to really tell our viewers. What about coffee colonics, and why are they so important and powerful?
Well, what I'll talk about is coffee enemas, because that's one of the things that I encourage people to learn how to do for themselves. Is, you know, and that's something that I love being able to talk about on this show, that although I'm thrilled to see people and happy to have them come and allow me to teach them and introduce them to the world of colon cleansing, they can do these things for themselves. And they can learn how to give themselves an enema, and they can learn how to give themselves a coffee enema. Maybe you've heard of using coffee in an enema because they do it at the cancer clinics, and the Gerson Clinic is very famous for using it. It was actually discovered in World War I by an accident, a nurse who accidentally put coffee in an enema bag of a soldier she was giving an enema to. They didn't have enough painkillers to give the soldiers after their surgeries any painkiller. The only thing the nurses could do is give them enemas. She accidentally put coffee in and discovered that his pain was completely relieved, and he had just an enormous feeling of safety and well-being. And then some doctors after the war studied the science of why that actually happened, and what they discovered is that when coffee is introduced rectally into the colon, it creates an enormous release of toxins by the liver.
Wow.
Yes, and it's one of the most powerful ways to allow the liver to clean. We know what emotions the liver holds, right? So, anger, fear, anger, exactly, anxiety. So when people can release that, they just have an enormous feeling of well-being, and the toxins that are released out of the liver allow the body to be much healthier and stronger. So I write in my book a really detailed how-to of how to do an enema. I know that it sounds kind of silly, but you know, most people in our generation don't really know how to do that, and that's not something that was just part of their day-to-day cleansing routine. But I believe that in the decades to come, colon cleansing and doing these things for ourselves is just going to be as routine
as brushing our teeth,
taking a shower, using purified water. We're just the pioneers.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah, I must say, I couldn't help but notice your name. We didn't introduce you as this, but your name is Julia Loggins.
Yes.
And you've been married to a famous man named Kenny.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Yes. To bring consciousness beyond just the workplace for a moment, or beyond the physiology, let's talk about relationship, because we all have at least one relationship in our lives,
yes.
And especially in that spousal relationship. How was it? What was your experience in? We're talking about consciousness as being this sense of equality, that
yes.
we're all equal aspects of this divine, infinite being that goes by many names.
Yeah.
In our world today,
yes.
We tend to put celebrity on a pedestal. So how was it to be married to somebody in a spiritual, conscious way, where there's all this pedestal and superficial, potentially, status going on, and being with a celebrity?
Well, first I want to honor Kenny for always being just a huge fan and supporter of my work, and of cleansing and detoxification, but really of me and of my work. And he was always a person who would talk about it and openly, and was always great at making jokes about it, but absolutely was integrated into our life. And you know, consciousness was and continues to be, because we're really good friends, a part of our conversation, and continues to be. So you know, it was never separate. And you know, considering his being a celebrity, that took a lot of courage on his part, and continues to, but it's always been something that he's dedicated to health and vitality in his own life. And luckily for me, that includes his holding that space for our children. So it's, you know, having them be healthy and strong has always been something that's really been important to him, and I'm really lucky about that.
Yeah, that's great. It's wonderful to hear that you have a good relationship with him. Yeah. This is a small community.
Yeah,
You know, so it's
absolutely. Yeah, we're lucky, and we've worked hard at it when we were married, and you know, it's a lifelong relationship. It's just changed forms as relationships do. Sure. So, you know, but we are each other's biggest fans, and he has a fabulous new band, the Blue Sky Riders.
So, wow, okay, the Blue Sky Riders, getting a plug.
So, you know, and he's having a great time with that creativity and vitality. You know, there's, you know, we're never too old or young to dream and to keep reinventing ourselves. And the healthier we are, the more able we are to do that.
Exactly, that's why this conversation is so important. Conscious physiology.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, thank you for asking that question. It was kind of courageous of you to ask that question.
Was it?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's just courageous to show up here and be on this.
It's about courage.
On this exploration.
Yes, it is.
You know,
Thank you.
because yeah.
So, what about when we travel? You know, a lot of people travel for not just a week or so, but sometimes for a month and go to Europe, etc. How do we maintain our healthy diet when we're traveling? What would be some tips for people that travel? Well, we all travel to some extent, but
yes, we do. Drinking a lot of water.
Drinking a lot of
much water as we can.
Okay, I'll take it on cue.
Yeah,
please,
me too. I think I'll
have
drink
a cup
some
of water right now, if you will.
Yeah,
put us on pause.
Exactly. Thank you.
No, okay, to our health, right?
To our health, yes. Yeah, dehydration is a source of much more disease and certainly low energy, and even even affects our emotions. So I can't say enough about hydration. That's something to keep going, especially when you're on planes, and trains, and dealing with the stress of travel. And another thing is to try to avoid the sweets, and try to avoid the white flours and sugars. And also, in a world now where there's juice bars, go and get a juice. That's something that we can do. Get some green juice.
Get some green juice.
Get some green juice.
And that's becoming more and more prevalent.
Oh,
now, isn't
it is.
Yeah,
it
you can
is.
really get it.
It just feels good.
Yeah.
And it actually, thank goodness, it tastes good.
Yeah.
You throw some apples in, you throw something that's a nice sweetening agent that's natural.
Yeah.
I'm pretty hardcore, boy. I do the kale and the chard and the dandelion greens and the celery and the ginger and the lemon, and I don't put in the apple. I just
suit yourself. Whatever works.
Yeah, but it's really very energizing.
Yeah.
So I didn't show people your book, and I want to right now. So maybe we can get a close-up of this on one of our cameras here today. There we go. It's a beautiful picture of you, Julia.
Thank you.
Dare to detoxify.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What's with the dare?
Well, I felt that the whole subject to take is daring. And I felt that I really wanted to dare people to be healthy and to not make it look like we're just taking a walk down a middle road. This is really going for it. And that's what it takes to be healthy in this day and age. And that's what it takes to reclaim our health and to continue it. So I feel that that's really where I was coming from, that I want to dare people to take that step.
So for people that are interested in this conversation, Julia, aside from your book, Dare to Detoxify, and also your website, which is daretodetoxify.com, correct?
Right.
Making it really easy.
Yes.
Where would you direct people in addition to your work if they wanted to know more?
Yeah, thank you. Well, one of the things that's really an important adjunct to colon cleansing and colon health and really vital physiology is lymphatic therapy.
Yes.
Lymphatic therapy. In my book, I talk about the 3 Ds: digest, drain, and dump. You know, obviously, we've been talking about the digestion. We know,
I thought you were talking about the dump.
We know what the dump is. So the drain, lymphatic therapy. And our lymph system is a really misunderstood and often neglected part of our body. We have lymph nodes that run through our entire body. 70% of them are in our digestive tract. And it is unlike the circulatory system, which is always being pumped by the heart. The lymphatic system is not pumped unless we do something about it. Exercise, dry skin brushing, getting on a trampoline. But our lymphatic system holds the keys to our health and vitality. I've learned that through my own experience and through working with many clients who avail themselves of this really subtle but very powerful technique.
I've done a lot of lymph work, and you're right, it's very important. So we're coming to the end of this segment, our interview with you, Julia, and I'd like to close with one last question. If you could give a pearl of wisdom to our viewers that would encapsulate our conversation here today, what would you want them to know?
I'd want them to know that detoxification and purification will lead them to feeling more energy, to feeling mental clarity, to feeling a sense of peace, and to feeling more whole, and to take the step into learning about it and exploring it.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Julia, for really being with us today. This was a wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Our pleasure. So, now it's time to hear from our illustrious steward here, Stuart Zimmerman, who's going to share some comments about today's show, but certainly about consciousness, because that's a conversation that he's an expert in. So Stu, what would you like to share today? Stu's views is here.
An expert. I'm not sure I'm going to own that just yet, but what I will own is the fact that we are so much more than what meets the eye. And I know that we've been talking about today the physical implications of who and what we really are. And the magic word came down for me as I invite in for presence, the now portion of Get Conscious Now. I really invite in the now to do the speaking and to be present. And so what I noticed is the dare. The dare word just came out and I heard it clearly. So I'm inviting us all, inviting you to dare, and to really dare to inquire what the truth really is. Who are we at the core? Because yes, we are these bodies with dirty colons and all kinds of organs and everything else, and yet we know with absolute certainty that we are not simply our body. I look at this thing. Do I have a hand? Or am I my hand? Well, I have a hand. Okay, well, who's doing the having? What exactly is this? And so what I'm noticing is, and I'm really inviting you now to notice with me, so please take another breath. Just take another breath. And ask yourself, really, who am I? And ask, what is really possible for my existence? Can I live a life of greater joy, of greater happiness, of deeper connection with people who are in my life right now, and even people maybe I've yet to meet? Is it possible? Am I dedicated to it? And what I'm noticing is, for me, I'm going to invite a word in beyond the dare, and maybe this is a dare in a way, a dare to be consecrated, to be so all in with every aspect of my being, of my essence at the core, beyond everything and anything I ever thought I was, and say, am I committed to knowing the truth? Am I committed to living a life of love? If that is really my mandate, if that's what really I'm here for, and I can't settle for anything less, because I can hear that old movie of Thelma and Louise in the background, where the quote was, you get what you settle for. If I can really invite in, and I'm really inviting you to dare right along with me, because we're all interconnected in this field. We are all part of something that is so far beyond who we think we are separately. And it's so easy to become indifferent. It's so easy to want to get along by kind of floating along with the mass consciousness of delusion, of boredom, of superficiality. It's so easy to do because we get pelted with all that information every day. I'm really inviting you, daring you to consider that we are aspects of something infinite, that we are something that's so much bigger, to really breathe it in, to be in that exploration and to have the body open up to that, whether it's through colonics, whether it's through diet, through exercise, or just being present with this show. And with that, I'm going to give it right back to Patricia.
Thank you. So, my quantum quote today is from one of my favorite authors, Ken Carey. And he wrote several books over the last 30 years around consciousness. And one of his absolute favorite books, my favorite books of his, is called The Third Millennium, Post-Historic Man. He wrote this book in the late 70s, and what he spoke of in this book is what the 21st century might look like. What would the third millennium look like? What would be the components of the third millennium? And this particular quote, the first time I heard it just really touched me so deeply, and I was listening to the CDs again after I've listened to them many, many times. And when I heard him say this, I said, here's my quote for the show, and this is it. And it really ties in beautifully with what you said, Stu. There is no place where the presence of God is not. Only people who are not fully present in the places where they are. You have only to be present to know everything you need to know. So there I said it, the G word, God. You know, I don't use that word very often in my work, and I have not mentioned it at all on this show and in the other shows that I've done prior, because it has such a charge on it. It can be a positive charge, could be a negative charge, but there are many of us that have been raised in religions and have not had positive experiences about it. So I'm really careful about using that word. And I'm certainly not using it in a religious context today, and the show is not about religion. The show is about spirit. The show is about energy. The show is about quantum physics and how Einstein and his colleagues in their day proved that everything is energy. Our bodies are just energy. This table is energy. If you looked at it under the proper magnification, we're empty space. What determines our bodies and our health of our bodies is what we think, how we feel, what we think about our bodies. So if you take the same quote and you just substitute the word energy or spirit, I'll say it again. There is no place where the presence of spirit or energy is not. There are only people who are not fully present in the places where they are. You have only need to be present. You have only to be present to know everything that you need to know. So everything in that present moment is exactly what we need in our lives, to be present to the fact that we're energy beings, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And so I'd like to close with that and invite you to consider that we are God beings, if you will. You might want to even use a little G, having this human experience. So thank you very much. So,
Patricia, that was lovely.
Thank you.
Yes,
right?
And it really cuts to the core, whether we call it God or a spirit or the unified field of consciousness,
right.
The quantum field, energy, Harry, it really doesn't make a difference what we call it or anything. What we do know is this, and it is confirmed by science.
It is.
That we are all aspects of something infinite. We are interconnected with each other as such. And no matter how separate we think we are, and how alone we think we are, that is nothing more than an optical illusion. That's all that it really is.
That's what Einstein actually used in a quote. This world is nothing more than he actually said
delusion.
Optical delusion, exactly.
But close enough.
And you know, there's another quote in this same book that is worth mentioning. And what he says is that we're nerve endings of God dipped in matter. Oh, wow. Interesting, right?
Yes.
Nerve endings of God dipped in matter.
So with that, I mean, why should we be taking ourselves all that seriously? You know, when you really come down to it, if we are simply an aspect of something infinite, so much greater than our thoughts, our beliefs, our experiences, and whatever we were taught, maybe we could lighten up a little bit and just remember or just be present with the fact that it is amazing, an amazing blessing and a gift that any of us exist at all. So let's play with the gift. Let's open this package up, get all that dirt that's out of there, and have some fun.
Good.
All right, what do you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well.
We ready?
Yes,
we're
ready.
Take off, Thelma, Louise.
Thank you all for joining us.
Yeah.
And what we want to say in close is,
Get conscious now. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah.
Today.
Whenever this is, come back again.
Welcome to State and Fig, located in historic La Arcata Plaza in downtown Santa Barbara.
Our menu focuses on products that are raised in the state of California, inspired by the flavors of the Riviera.
And we are proud to be sponsoring this program.
Hello, I'm Twyla Kim. I've been an artist and hairstylist in Santa Barbara for 20 years. I personalize color, design, and precision haircuts for each individual at Sequel Salon in Montecito. I'm happy to be sponsoring Get Conscious Now.
I'm attorney Gregory Lowe. I will prepare your trust, bankruptcy, divorce, conservatorship, probate, evictions. All of this I can do at an affordable price and with caring. Thank you very much.
When I was growing up as a kid, I used to go around with him and watch him.
My mother and I both worked at Lowry Field.
To keep on doing this together.